Hello team, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. It has been some time, over 5 months I think, since I last posted. A lot has gone on. I'm not going to get into all of that in this video, but today I'm just going to talk about basically sort of like a year transformation from basically soldier in the British Army through to being a civilian. I left the British Army in May last year. I left straight away. I had 3 months leave, so you get something called resettlement leave if you save up enough days. I did all the courses I need to do. I saved up some of sort of my annual leave allowance. I had termination leave, which was about 20 working days, plus a resettlement leave. So I had like 3 months off, worked throughout that, saved up as much money as possible. And then I went into my current role, which is as a mortgage advisor with Capricorn Financial, and that is working in London, and I've been doing that ever since May last year from when I left. So I literally left in May the British Army and transitioned straight into Capricorn as a mortgage advisor. Completely different role, going from very active lifestyle, PT every day, working on armoured vehicles, doing reconnaissance, all your sort of basic soldiering skills, being out in the field, to the boring jobs of cleaning equipment, to literally just sat behind a desk. And I'm going to talk through that in this video and whether I regret leaving the army. I've gone from leaving the British Army to behind a desk. My job role now is basically sales, calling around, booking in meetings, conducting meetings, then putting mortgage recommendations together, giving that advice, hopefully winning the business, submitting the application, getting that application all the way through to completion so that people can get the keys to their new homes, whether that's residential, buy to let, and then they move in. And that's sort of just repeating that process. So it's quite repetitive. You are stuck behind a desk, but it is also very stressful. I am classed as self-employed, so there is no base salary. So if I don't do business, I don't get paid. So I've got to work constantly, get as many meetings booked in as possible. I've got to deal with compliance. I've got to deal with people wanting to get their mortgages through as soon as possible. You've got to deal with solicitors, legal. So it's gone from one sort of stressful job to another stressful job, but they are completely different. I am sort of stuck behind a desk, so you're not as active, but you're still keeping your brain very active. So that's I did find hard, is going from doing PT every day, which I love physical training, I love pushing myself physically and mentally, to barely going to the gym at some points because work was that busy and I was just stuck behind a desk. I would then finish work, I had a commute as well, which I'll talk about in a second, to going home, to being stuck behind a computer again to get applications in. So I did find that a little bit hard at first, but not so much, because I actually do really enjoy my job. So because I found the job very exciting, I actually didn't find transitioning, going from moving around all the time to a job that was just based out of one office behind a desk, that hard. I've not thought about it. I thought I may have struggled a little bit more, but I actually didn't. So then that, like I said, that brings me on to the commute, and this is actually something I did struggle with. I've gone from basically living at work, spent most of my career living in the block, so I literally lived at work. I went from the block to work, which was about 100, 400 or 500 meters at some points, I think, even closer, to then leaving the army to having an hour and a half each way commute into London. So I was spending anywhere from around 2.5 to 3.5 hours if trains were delayed per day, commuting 5 days a week into London. What I found really hard was just the unreliability of trains, and sometimes I had to think, was this actually worth it, especially when I wasn't really earning an income and I was having to build up my pipeline and my business to get those good paychecks. The commute I actually found a lot harder than just sitting behind a desk and actually not going to the gym as much, just because trains, a lot of the time you don't get seats, you stand up, they're pretty much delayed even if it's only by a few minutes every day. Or they get cancelled quite often. The last few months the trains have been a lot better and they've made it a lot easier, but I remember at first they went through just a stage where they were just so unreliable. It actually did stress me out a lot and I found it really, really hard, but luckily, because I still enjoyed my job, I carried on doing it. But that's one thing you do need to be aware of if you're leaving the army. More than likely you're going to have some sort of long commute or drive to work, and you're not actually just going to be able to walk to work because you live so close to it. Other things you just got to get used to is you don't have your 10 o'clock naffy break, so you can't go for your tea and toast every day at 10. My hours are a little bit more flexible, so I can get up and go for a coffee if I want to, but there's no set time in your day where you just get up at 10 o'clock and everyone goes for tea and toast for half hour, 45 minutes and just completely chins off work. You don't do PT every day at 8:30 and not start work till 10:30. I was in the office originally 9 till 6, I now do 8 till 5. So I have to be in at 8, I don't get to do PT for an hour and then go and sit and shower and watch Jeremy Kyle when it was on and then actually arrive work at 10:30 after the half hour naffy break. And so that doesn't happen. Sometimes work's really super busy, so you don't get your hour lunch break. I know this doesn't always happen within the army because you're away on exercise and work can get very busy. It's a lot more chilled when you are in camp, and this is 24/7, constantly always working like this. Your boss is basically, they really want to make money because they own the company. So they want you to work, so they want you to work as much as possible, so you can't just sneak off and go for a coffee all the time, or if there's no work to do you just sit around and do absolutely nothing. You do really have to work, especially when you're self-employed, because if you don't work you don't get paid. So even though the army was very, very busy at times and you work and you're running around and it's very physical, there was a lot of times where sometimes it was a bit boring, you never did anything. Over the last year, working as mortgage advisor, it's not like that. Even if business is quiet because there's not as many leads coming in, I'm having to call round people constantly and keep myself busy and constantly work. I can't just go and chill out for 2 or 3 hours because there's absolutely nothing to do and go and sit in a naffy. I've got to work because I need to get paid, or if you're in an employed role, your employer wants you to work, so you've got to work. So it's just constantly working with the commute as well. I'm out the door at 6:30, I don't get in till 6:30, and that is constantly every single time. So there's nowhere like it's really busy for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and then you have really busy quiet downtime. It's constant, so you have to get used to that. One of the good things is though, you don't have to shave. So since then, since leaving, I've just grown a beard. I shaved it off a few times, but now I sort of keep it like this. That's a really good positive, because I started to hate shaving. It really annoyed me. Regret leaving the army. Do I want to go back? Have I thought about going back? No, I haven't. I've thought about leaving for quite some time. I was lucky enough to do everything I wanted to do before I left. You know, I got a tour, I was an instructor at Purbright, training phase 1 soldiers. I got to go on overseas exercises. You know, I got to do the jumps. I got to do everything I wanted to do. The army was changing, so I left at a time that was suitable for me. I left at an age where I thought I could start a new career. And I wanted to get out and I wanted to make a little bit more money. The army, you're obviously capped at the ranks. With the pay increments, in my role, it's all commission based. So the harder I work, the better I work, the more money I get paid. There is no cap on commission, so as long as the business is there, as long as I complete the business, I will get paid on it. So that was a big one for me, and it's also work-life balance. I do 4 days in the office now, 1 day working from home. I get pretty much every weekend off if I want to, apart from I have to work 1 in 6 roughly, and that's only a Saturday as well, from around 9 till 4 sort of, and then if I want to do more Saturdays I can. So yes, I'm working a little bit more in the week. I'm out at the door at 6:30, don't get in till 6:30, but I get Wednesdays working from home, pretty much every weekend off. I can answer emails in the evening if I want to, but if I really don't want to work, I don't work in the evenings. If I don't want to work weekends, I don't have to work weekends apart from that 1 in 6. I don't have to shave. My money, you know, my wages are not capped, so the harder I work, the more I earn. So for the work-life balance and the income, it's definitely worth it. But also within the office, I'm just sort of my own boss. So my manager just leaves me to it. I work. I don't take the piss when it comes to sort of taking time out for coffees and lunch. Sometimes I go for a little bit longer with like friends for lunch, but other than that, I just get left to it. I get to work. There is no crap. No one constantly over me, micromanaging me. So I definitely don't regret it. And like I said, I did everything I wanted to do in the army. I always recommend people joining the army and just giving it a minimum of 4 years. But if you are in the army right now and you're sort of unhappy, you feel like you've completed everything, but you feel like there's nothing out there for you to do, there are jobs out there. It is, you know, is the grass greener? In some cases it is, some cases it isn't. It's still work, it's still life. but just make that leap. You can enjoy it. It has been a little bit stressful at times. Sometimes I found it hard, but I do not think about joining the army. I've done everything I wanted to do. So if you do feel like you want to leave the army, then just go for it. You know, at the end of the day, you've got to work. Sometimes you're going to hate it, sometimes you're going to love it. But if you're really not liking the army in a minute and you've completed everything you wanted to do, just don't get pension trapped like I thought I was going to. Just give it a go. Let us know what your thoughts are. Send us a message if you want to know a little bit more, if you have any questions, you want me to do another video on it, and I'll see you soon.